Hi everyone, I've got a really short experience today, so it won't take too long to get through this one. This one is from a guy called Martin J. So this is Martin's experience. I had a cardiac catheter error resulting in bypass graft spiral dissection and a heart attack followed by UTI related to non-sterile Foley placement, later leading to urosepsis, septic shock, congestive heart failure, pneumonia, renal failure, and subsequent neurological injuries with the loss of sensory motor function on the right side of my body. I lost pulse and blood pressure for about 4 minutes and was intubated, starting on medication and maintained a comatose state for 8 days. I have no memories of about 2 weeks of the hospitalization. I have no memories of 2 weeks of the month-long hospitalization. I do remember with clarity the experience. I remember thinking, so this is what it is like to die. Then I felt myself released from my body. I saw my wife at the bedside and the people in the room working on me. I wanted to tell them I was okay, but I couldn't. I felt as if I was being lifted away, and then I started to experience what I've come to call my tour. I started travelling to all sorts of places. Some were familiar, others were not. I remember them, but I have a problem clearly describing them. Most of the words alone cannot adequately convey the existence of them. They are all wonderful, remarkable, beautiful, and interesting. Some were landscapes, some were places I remembered as a child. The easiest to describe were the landscapes. They were a valley with lush mountainsides and an exceptionally spectacular waterfall. There was a lush green field with flowers and children laughing and playing. There was a beach with crystal blue water and blue skies with a cool breeze and gentle, lapping waves. I was shown places with other stars, galaxies and planets. I lost sense of time and space and was instantly transported from place to place. I travelled to many places. I can't recount the number, but I do recall having a sensational sense of joy and happiness during the travels and did not want it to stop. Eventually I reached an area of darkness with a faint light in the distance. I felt a strong compulsion to travel to the light. The closer I got, the brighter it became. As I neared the light, I became aware of other spirits or souls present. I could not see them as if I were looking at a picture of a face, but I sensed them. I could see what appeared to be a mixture of clouds, fog, smoke, and an ethereal mist connected with the spirits in the light. They were as if they were all one and the same. There were hazy outlines of indistinct hazy outlines of indistinct figures present. I knew them. I was communicating with them, but we weren't talking. We just did it. It was instantaneous thought transmitted between us. I met my sister who had died years ago from sudden cardiac death. I met my mother who died of cancer 5 years ago. I was happy to be with them, but I was also drawn to the light. It was the most brilliant and bright golden white light that permeated the entire area. As I got close to it, I felt an overwhelming power and presence that I recognized as God. I communicated with the entity and I knew it was God. I asked questions and had answers immediately. I was filled with love, joy and happiness and felt myself surrounded by unconditional love, forgiveness and acceptance. I wanted to continue and to proceed on through the light to the other side, but I received a message that clearly said, no, go back, it's not your time. It was accompanied by visions of my wife and children. I did not want to go back, but I was given no choice, and then I awoke as the doctor was shaking me. I'm a bit vague after that, but I remember him asking me if I was okay, and did I want to be intubated. At that moment I felt extremely sad and wanted to go back to where I'd just been, but I couldn't. Then my wife and children came into the room and I realised that I was alive and been sent back for some purpose. Although I don't know what that is yet, I've been told by my minister that it may be to share my story. Maybe it is, but I'm not so sure. I'm learning that there are lots of stories like mine, a lot more than I ever thought before. In fact, I was skeptical about such stories. I thought they were just the manifestation of some weird biochemical reaction in the brain that resulted in an hallucinatory experience. But now I am not so sure. I think now that I did experience a glimpse of the afterlife and was allowed to discover that God is real, heaven is a paradise, and that we're all part of this, and that we are all a part of that if we exercise our free will with the proper manner to deserve it. Just as there is a heaven, there is a hell. Just as there is good, there is evil. It is up to us to choose which path we take. That's the end of Martin's little experience. So it started off there with some pretty hard to follow if you're not in healthcare medical terminology. So yeah, his body is basically shutting down, and so his kidneys are failing, his heart's failing, his lungs are failing, and he says he's got some neurological problems as well. So doesn't say whether he was comatose intentionally or whether he slipped into one naturally, but this is the end result of these injuries. And as this happens, he slips into this state of a new reality, and he says that he is in hospital for a month because of this, and for 2 weeks of those months he doesn't actually remember anything. So I'm guessing this means he was in a coma for 2 weeks, kind of drawing the links there. So as he's slipping into this state, he's thinking, okay, so this is it, this is me gone, I'm finally dying. And as he says this to himself, he feels his spirit lift out of his body. He can see what's going on around him from a new perspective. He sees his wife sitting next to the bed. He can see the doctors and the nurses working around his body, and he says that he feels fine, and he wishes he could convey his calm state to those frantically working on him and his worried wife. But obviously he's in this other realm now, and he isn't able to communicate with the physical anymore. He says that he is not really controlling his movement at this point. It's like something or someone or somehow, he doesn't really get into the specifics. It just says that it feels as though he is being lifted away, and then from there he says he gets taken on something that he calls his personal tour. And this is pretty fascinating where he gets to go. This is my kind of dream experience to have when you finally leave this physical realm, is to go and have a look at this huge physical universe that we can see just a minute glimpse of as humans when we look up to the stars at night and see the huge the huge vastness of this universe we're in, and this is a wish of mine. I might have said this before, but to get to go on a tour and see all these stars and galaxies, and do it at such a rate that you can instantly just think, okay, I want to go there, and yeah, the next moment. You are in that place you wanted to be. So he not only gets a tour of this universe, though, and all the stars and the galaxies and the planets within it, he also sees some, Earth-like landscapes. He doesn't mention which part of the universe has this, if there's other Earth-like planets with similar places to go and have a look at, but and he doesn't go into any detail either as to what these other stars and galaxies and planets look like, and if they had life forms, and if so, what those forms look like, which is kind of frustrating. I would like to hear some more information there. But yeah, he gets this little tour, and then he says he reaches this place of darkness after he's seen everything he wants to see in this universe, and in this space of darkness, he sees a faint light in the distance, and he feels this strong compulsion to want to get closer to the light, to connect to the light. To experience the light, and the closer the light gets, the brighter it became. So as he gets closer to this light, he says he becomes aware that there's other spiritual beings nearby, and he can't see them, he just senses that they're there, and they're also connected to this source, this light. I guess you could call it God, and he can also talk to these other beings, but not like I'm talking to you now. It's done through instantaneous thought and telepathically. So that, to me, is magnificent. He has had this tour of the universe, and now he is in this realm where he's able to communicate with other beings without actually seeing their physical form, and doing that telepathically. You say that out loud and it sounds like that just could not possibly be true, but I guess if you're hearing this podcast for the first time and you have no experience of near-death experiences, that probably would sound pretty crazy. But I've read thousands of these, and almost everyone does talk about this ability to have a different form of communication, and a lot of them have experiences with other souls, other beings, other spirits, and for me, that's exciting, because it kind of gives you an idea of what that's like, and it means that once you leave this realm, you go into the next, and you are not alone. Not only does life continue, but it continues in a much more exciting way. There's so much to explore. There's other people to connect with. And there's this magnificent source that emanates love, and we're also drawn to that. So to me, that gives me a lot of hope that as we continue to get through this life, there's something very exciting awaiting us for when we do cross over. So he's had the tour of the universe. He's met these other souls he doesn't know. He is experiencing this light. And the next stage of his experience, he says he runs into family members who have passed away. So he meets his sister. He meets his mother, who died 5 years ago. And this is all as they're being drawn closer and closer to the light. He says that the light then becomes sort of the main focus. It drowns all other aspects of his experience out, and it just starts to permeate the whole area. And he gets closer and closer, and he just says this light feels incredibly powerful, and he instantaneously recognizes it as the source, as God. And he's able to communicate with God, and asks a few questions and then gets these answers immediately. So again, another part I would love to hear a little bit more detail about, like what questions did you ask, and can we have the answers too, please? It's immensely frustrating when people write these parts in an experience and just put it there like it's ho-hum, and it's just like, why can't you expand on exactly how that went down? Like it's frustrating, but I guess it's another common element of a near-death experience. People will have these incredible experiences and are only able to remember parts of them, and quite often the parts they can't remember when they come back are these questions and answers type scenarios that seem to be removed from their memory for one reason or another. So as he's having this chat with God, he says naturally he's filled with love, joy, happiness, and just surrounded by peace, acceptance, calmness, unconditional love, all these words that are repeatedly used to describe what this connection with the source is like. It's just seemingly bliss, and he's connecting with the light. So it's totally free of darkness, and it's obviously a place that you would like to stay in. But, of course, unfortunately for Martin, just as he's enjoying this blissful state, he gets this message, he says, and he doesn't say who's communicating it or why or whether he protests or not. He just says, you've got to go back. It's time for you to come back to Earth. And as he's being told this, he's getting visions of what's going on back in the physical realm. He's seeing his wife, he's seeing his kids, and even though he feels a little bit drawn to their predicament, he still is so at peace in the light. This is where he says he would rather stay. But he says he doesn't really get a choice. He's sort of told, and then the next thing you know, the doctor's waking him up and shaking him, and back he comes into his body. And as what usually happens, the person is not happy about this situation. They're back in their body. It's painful, it's tired, it's restricted, it's challenging, and Martin is no different. He feels extremely sad and writes that he wants to go back to this realm that he's just been, and then he says his wife and children are allowed into his hospital room, and the penny sort of drops in his physical form that he has been sent back for some purpose. He doesn't really know what this purpose is yet, so he decides to talk to his minister about what's happened to him, and the minister says, look, your purpose could very well be to share your story, to share your connection with God, to come back and tell everyone God is real. And this is what is awaiting us all. And Martin says, maybe this is his purpose, maybe it's not. Maybe, or maybe from my perspective, just reading this, it must be part of his experience, but his purpose, but also other aspects. There's an infinite number of reasons of what your purpose could be. It could be to do the job you're doing, could be to be a parent to your children, could be to be a husband to your wife. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to God, although obviously Martin has had a pretty impressive experience with the divine, so naturally you would have thought that would cross his mind in terms of being a reason for him coming back to share that connection for people like myself to learn about, and you listening to get another glimpse of someone's experience with this other realm, and solidified a little bit more in our own minds as to it's just another person, another person's testimony as to their experience with the source. And for me, that adds another layer of confirmation in my own mind. And it's hard because in this world, especially in the Western world where we're so science-driven, you read a magnificent story like this and your faith gets renewed, and that connection becomes stronger. But it gets peeled away again as you get immersed in the drama of this realm, and you get told how things are and things should be, and it just strips away your faith, or it does for me anyway, in the reality of these stories, and this is replaced by the challenging drama of being a human, and all the crazy things we see out there makes us sort of question, is there a God? Why has God made this place the way it is? Why am I here? All those sort of questions. And then I guess a natural assumption is to go, okay, it's all just an accident. We're here by coincidence, and there is no God, and this is all just a fluke. But this is why I like these experiences so much, because it reminds me of what I think is the truth deep down, which, I just look at my own experience and find that I have a constant connection to a higher power, and it's just hard to quantify that in human words, and it's impossible for something like science to prove, because it's difficult to measure someone's personal experience, what they see, what they feel, what they're thinking, and how that's all molded together to form this connection to a higher power. It's difficult to even describe that to you right now, so I don't see how a scientist could measure that, and I'm constantly wondering how science and humans will ever prove, or can they prove, the existence of a soul and God, and would that make any difference if they did? It would change everything, I guess, if they could prove that. But I think humans have been trying to do that for thousands of years and haven't really managed to. But at the same time, bubbling under the surface throughout the humans' evolution has been the multiple claims that there is a God from various religions, and still there is those questions out there. And so anyway, Martin says that God is real. So in Martin's perspective, that's all that matters, I guess, for him, and we can just believe him or not. It's up to us. He says that heaven is a paradise when you are connected to the source. It is all you ever need. It's all you ever want. And this is all waiting for us if we want to go there. He says, but, and this is a big but, just as there is a heaven, there is also a hell. And it's up to us to choose which path we want to take. So I don't know if he's talking about hell in the afterlife, because he never really touched on that at all from the experience that he's just written here. He had all pretty much positive experiences. If he did visit the hell, he doesn't write about it. But I guess the takeaway there is, even if there is a hell and somehow we end up there, that all we have to do is ask for the light to remove us from the place we don't want to be. And the same applies, I guess, a little bit to this human experience we have. You can let more light in. You can ask God to guide you. You can ask the angels or your spiritual guides to get involved in your own life. And when you're more open to that connection, it's definitely, from my own experience, makes it easier for them to make themselves known. So yeah, all it takes is a little bit of a encouragement and an invitation, and you can see miracles happen. So yeah, just a little experience today. I hope that was a good one for you. Thank you for listening. I send you my love and look forward to talking to you next week. Goodbye.